Coming up on the CodeBet Daily NRL Round 12 preview, I make my first sweeping declaration of the season. But more importantly, Phil, our campaign to get Anthony Griffin sacked has finally come off.
Credit to us and us alone. We were the ones that got it done. So exceptional efforts by us right throughout the season. Someone had to do it.
Yep.
Someone had to think of the Dragons fans because, you know, they're a weird bunch, but I actually kind of sympathised with them all the way through this, even though they didn't know what was best for them. But the Dragons, they're heading in the right direction. They've still got to sack the people that gave Griffin a job, and then those people also need to get sacked. But we'll get there. I'm tipping a bunch of favourites, but that's obviously a different story, when you consider the line. So there's a few bits and pieces there to run through with round 12's tips. And towards the back end of the show, I've got a massive bet of the weekend for you. Something that has to get put on before round 12 kicks off, involving the Canberra Raiders, and we dive into the details. That's my bet of the weekend. Don't miss it.
Yeah, nice, tasty future for you. But it's the CodeBet Daily NRL show. You should check it out because it's real good. Welcome to the CodeBet Daily NRL show. I'm your host, Alex Donnelly. I'm joined by Phil Pryor in Sydney. We've done it, Phil. We outlasted Anthony Griffin.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work, but finally, the work that we have put in to campaign against him has paid off.
I believe, yeah, this is half of our doing and half of some people down in Wollongong going, hey, this guy sucks. Ben Hunt was against us and we finally won.
I disagree. I think everyone down that way has had the wool pulled over their eyes for far too long. It's incredible how many Dragons fans have tried to be optimistic the last few years about, just noise and not process. And that's what pisses me off more than anything. You have to get the process right. And getting rid of Anthony Griffin does not solve all the problems that club faces. Now they need to turn their attention to the people that hired Anthony Griffin and get rid of them as well, and then turn their attention to the people that hired those people and get them out of the building as well.
I think Stats Guy and I may be applying for board positions at St George next week. That might be the way to go forward because, did you do that before? Yeah, okay, we're not going to do that. Pretty simple one. But hey, we've got a bunch of awesome games this week and coming up in round 12, and may as well rip in because one of the best ones is tonight. Brisbane Broncos, they're $3.20 up against the Penrith Panthers at $1.40. The line is plus 7.5. And you can get obviously minus 7.5 for the Panthers, but you can get even money for that plus 7.5 on Bet365. Panthers have won 20 of their last 21 interstate when they have been favourite. This is awesome. This is second versus third, but geez, these odds are a bit all over the joint as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you're talking about the premiership favourite or one of the premiership favourites in the Penrith Panthers up against the side that clearly had the early form in the NRL competition. It is just quite a bit to get your head around the fact that the Broncos are such a large outsider, given that they are the home side. They're playing in their fortress, Suncorp Stadium. But yeah, look, the reality is no Adam Reynolds for the home side has not flipped this market, but it's certainly put a massive dent in Brisbane's chances, which obviously betting agencies are well and truly open to. And that's why it's going to be really hard to back the Broncos head to head in this one. Tip them, at all as well. I suppose after a loss in Melbourne and then that second half in Manly as well, that has left even more of a sour taste in our mouth as far as Brisbane are concerned as well. But in saying that, you cast your mind back to round one and Brisbane went down to Penrith and they ground out a really, really impressive win over the Panthers. And there's no reason why they can't turn this match into a grind once again this weekend. Can they put up a winning score? That's where you start to ask questions, given that they won't have Reynolds. So they won't have that elite goal kicker. They won't have that creator. They won't have that organizer at 7, the chief of the team. Adam Reynolds is the leader and he brings so much to that group, but they should still get the go forward and it shouldn't really impact them defensively too much. You wouldn't think. They've still got Reece Walsh at the back organising things from a defensive perspective, but I'm kind of liking the under the 39.5 points in this game. Bet 365, $1.91 there. And yeah, that's sort of that's kind of the only thing that I'm feeling confident about. Penrith, they're obviously coming off a game where they made a massive statement last week against the Roosters. That was easily their most impressive performance of the year that we've seen so far. Yeah. The two-time premier, of course. And interestingly, this is Penrith's second match in Suncorp Stadium in a 12-day span after that 18 points to 6 win over the Warriors in Magic Round. So, I suppose that there's a level of consistency and familiarity to the task at hand this weekend. I like Stephen Crichton as a first try scorer option. He's just been electric on the right edge this season for the Panthers. That form in Brisbane holds true as well. He scored 4 tries from his 5 appearances at Suncorp Stadium. He's paying $10 over at Bet365. In saying that, I actually like the Broncos at the line in this one. I think them with the 8.5 point start is enough. If it stays under and if the Broncos can sort of turn this into a bit of a grind. We know the Panthers, their form has been patchy. They lost a low-scoring affair to the Tigers only 3 games ago. So give me the Broncos with the 8.5 point start at $1.91 on Bet365.
Yep, easy enough. I was going to take the unders too, as I think the last 5 Brisbane games have also gone under. We move to Friday night, and, well, isn't this a topical game? 6 o'clock, St George, $2.75 with a 6.5 point head start against the Roosters, who have had the media turn against them for seemingly the first time in ever. At $1.50, they're obviously minus 6.5 too. Roosters have won 9 of their last 10 against St George Illawarra. They absolutely sucked last week. I was giving him a chance. Geez, I was wrong. And Drew Hutchison's playing in the halves. I have no idea what's going on. Talk about shipping off someone else. Now it's Robbo out. It's this and that. It must be a thing at Moore Park that when you get smashed, everyone wants the coach to leave because John Longmire's copying it at the same time.
Is John Longmire in the hot seat now?
Oh, some idiots on the internet going, no, Longmire out. Going, guys, 12 of the Swans' tallest 16 dudes are injured. Like, seriously, shut up.
Okay, well, that is a bit nuts, admittedly. Look, let's get to the elephant in the room. Will Anthony Griffin's departure generate an emotional boost for the home side? Before I get into it,
is there a new coach bump?
I'll throw one back at you. What's your opinion about the old emotional boost factor after a coach has shown the door?
Well, let's see. It worked for Everton in the EPL earlier this year when they knocked off Brighton. North Melbourne are unbeaten since 2015 when their coach has been sacked or stepped aside. Leeds got a draw against Newcastle over the weekend, but then Crystal Palace got smashed when Roy Hodgson came in. So, the answer is a banana. If you're a really, really pathetic team, you find a 1 week boost because you're just like, hey, let's try something. And if you're going up against an equally average team, you're probably a chance. But if you're coming up against a gun team, I think you're in trouble. I think St George might have a chance at home because the Roosters just were so bad last week. And now it's like, oh, we were terrible. Oh, we're getting dragged. Oh, no, St George have sacked their coach. They could be up and about now.
Yeah, I think for mine, the thing is normally it's a playing group that all of a sudden has a bit of weight lifted off their shoulders, and normally an interim coach comes in and just kind of opens up the playbook a little bit and says, guys, let's just go out there and have some fun. Let's get back to actually enjoying our footy. And they just take a little bit of the strain off things. That said, the Dragons, they really only have 2 game winners in their team. They're a side that's been the roster management over the last few years has just stacked this roster with aging forwards, and Ben Hunt has papered over all the cracks the last couple of years. Just about, it's a miracle that Anthony Griffin held his job for this long, and he's got Ben Hunt to thank for that. That's the reality. Tyrell Sloan is obviously showing quite a bit at fullback as well, so he could. He's one that I think really could benefit by Hook being hooked in this scenario, because Griffin, one of the poor things that he's done over the last few years is not empower his young developing prospects. He starved Sloan of opportunities the last few years. Sloan really has only been able to nail down that fullback role this season, and he's shown good patches, he's shown bad patches. I think maybe hook out the door could be good for Sloan. And yeah, look, obviously the fact that they've lost 9 out of their last 10 against the Roosters is not great, but the Chooks are also in a massive rut. They'll lose Joey Manu for the next couple of weeks with an ankle sprain. That's not, there's one attacking threat that the Roosters lose, and they're in a massive offensive rut right now as well. So that certainly doesn't help. They might be without Kiwi front rower Jared Warrior-Hargreaves in this one as well. He's in some doubt. That's massive just for their leadership and up front. And if you hear Trent Robinson talk, all he wants to go on about is how this side just doesn't have the leadership and experience that it did a few seasons ago. He's not wrong. They have lost a bunch of mature leaders to retirement the last few years. Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, when he came back into this team in about round 3 or 4, it gave the Roosters a massive boost. So losing him would be bad. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but given all the reasons I've just kind of listed, I think the Dragons with the 6.5 start is a decent bet this weekend at $1.90 with Ladbrokes.
My teams all suck at the moment. It's a great time to be me. Yeah, St. George at the plus 6.5 I thought was a decent go, especially just with not talking about the Roosters, but just that, hey, we can just play footy. It's pretty simple. You get the ball in, try and score a try. Like, you don't, none of this, fancy plays and this, I know all come in, but when you're not that talented, how about you just try break a line? It's pretty simple.
Yeah, and not try and just hold so true to your structures. Just play what's in front of you a little bit more. And particularly, without someone like Warrior-Hargreaves kind of, solidifying the middle from a defensive standpoint as well, just run forward. Just try and get that defensive line on the back foot. That's when things open up.
That's it. Like, also check out the Code Bet AFL show later when I yell about forwards just kicking the ball straight. Anyway, South Sydney, $1.40. Parramatta, $3.20. Pretty big matchup this. The line is between 8.5 and 9.5, wherever you look. Over under a 42.5. But geez, South Sydney have won their last 6 by 13 or more against Parramatta. That's bad for the Eels coming into Friday night, especially given the form that Souths are in at the moment.
And there's some poetry to that stat as well, because coincidentally as well, the Rabbitohs are now on a run of 6 straight wins this season since their loss to, I think it was the Storm, about 7 weeks ago. And in that run of their 6 straight wins, they've accrued 186 points for and conceded just 66. So it's been utter domination for the Cardinal and Myrtle across the last six rounds. The Eels, they were brave, you could say, last week down in Canberra without Mitch Moses, but their form, it has been patchy at best. I think that's kind of being polite somewhat. They had a tough early draw, but they also barely played outside Sydney for the first 8 or 9 rounds. Losing 26-24 to the Titans in Magic Round was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for mine. I still had a little bit of confidence in the Eels, but I really well and truly have lost the faith, I must admit. So
I'm off them. I
like the Rabbitohs at the line here. I like the fact that they're back at Moore Park as well, because their home ground is a core stadium these days. But it used to be the old Sydney Football Stadium. I think they'll get a boost by playing there, and I really like them minus the 8.5, which Bet365 are spitting out $2 back for that one as well. So that's one of my bets of the round, I think.
Yeah, don't get me started about a team from South Sydney playing home games in Western Sydney. It makes no sense, and it's something that I will continue to yell about, but hey, that's just what I do here on this show. But yeah, I like Souths, and I didn't mind the over because 5 of the last 6 between the two have gone over. The way Souths are playing and on that good deck at Allianz, I didn't mind. So yeah, over 42.5, and even that line, I'll have a look at that for one of my better bets as well as we move ahead to Saturday afternoon. The Cronulla Sharks with Nico Hines going, Freddie, I'm available. $1.38, minus 8.5. Newcastle, $3.20. Over under 46.5 points here. This just feels like an awkward time slot, and it's up at Coffs Harbour. What is going on?
CX Coffs International. It's borderline a Knights home game. Still a somewhat lengthy trip.
Can't wait to never go there.
Sorry?
Can't wait to never go there.
I had to commentate a state junior touch tournament up there. Actually, it's a lovely venue. I'll have you know, but yeah, it's a little bit obscure. You might recall Steve Smith hit a century for the Sixers at that venue as well last summer. So look, points are on offer. Points are on offer at CX Coffs. Now, what I would say is that the Sharks, they're a fraction light in the middle forwards department. They do have Dale Finucane back now after his sort of suspension, missing a large chunk of the last 2 months. But still, Toby Rudolph's injured, and no Cam McInnes for them. So Oregon Kaufusi and Royce Hunt start up front. Hunt has been playing that role, but and there's a chance Braden Hamlin-Uele might come back. But it's still just versus Newcastle, who got Adam Elliott back last week. So he'll be boosted. He got through 35 minutes. Leo Thompson's been decent. He's starting at lock for them. So from that aspect, I don't mind the Knights putting up a decent fight against the Sharks, I must admit. But look, I do like Cronulla. They're still one of my favourite teams to like it from a premiership standpoint this season. You're dead right about Nico Hines wanting to put in a good performance as well. So most of these games, I'm probably leaning, to take the underdog to cover. But that second Friday game and this first Saturday game, I like the Sharks minus the 8.5, $2 as well on Bet365. Juicy odds.
Yeah, didn't mind that because the Sharks have covered the last 4 against the Knights. So I'm glad that we're aligned there. We move to a game that's for people who absolutely love rugby league. They'll be watching this, but
there's a couple of those this weekend.
Game to go to for Yeah. Well, I can't really talk as this one's in North Melbourne in the AFL as well, and Roosters in St George. Geez, I'm having a good week. Tins on the Hill at Leichhardt Oval, Saturday 5:30. Get to it. It's actually a really good place to watch some not so great football, but enjoy a couple of tins because they don't actually kill you with beer prices there. As the West Tigers are $2.30 with the line at 3.5. North Queensland, after beating St George and sending Anthony Griffin to the unemployment line, $1.65. Over under is 43.5. Tigers have lost their last 15 in Sydney. They stink.
Oh, so bad. And look, you'd have to think that the Cowboys have turned a corner because they had that impressive win in Magic Round against the Roosters. And then the challenge was back it up in a game where the Dragons have a lot of reasons to get up. With it being Ben Hunt's 300, with it being that there was a huge likelihood that Anthony Griffin gets the hook if they don't show up in that game. And the Cowboys got the job done. So I think we do have to start taking note of North Queensland perhaps turning a corner. I don't mind the odds here. I think the odds makers are probably paying a little bit too much credit to the Tigers, who themselves have somewhat turned a corner. To actually only concede 20 points to that South team last week was somewhat impressive.
Hey, they
frankly.
Covered. That's all I care about. South's covered.
So, look, maybe the Tigers are going to embarrass me here, but I don't. I'm tipping the Cowboys. They are the favourites, and I think that they can cover the minus 3.5 as well. So that's where I'm going. Bet365 offering $1.91.
Yeah, didn't mind that at all. Yeah, North Queensland should just get the job done. But Leichhardt Oval, one of the
by
great
the way,
places.
you failed to mention how I went last week with my tips.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to give you too much up because then I thought you were going to mention Arsenal and Brighton. I really just didn't want to talk about how well you went last weekend because, we got to keep a lid on things here. Stats guy had to go on holiday because he's winning the footy tipping by about 7 at the moment. So we just keep a lid on things here. We only holiday shame. That's what we do. But yes, you did shoot the lights out of it. We had to look back at the results on Monday. We're like, holy crap. Someone better have listened to Phil because they would be absolutely cashed up following the weekend. So hopefully someone out there listened. I listened to a few of them, so my bank account was nice and full,
Nice.
despite a few other results not going our way over the weekend. But anyway.
Well, the only one I didn't tip at the line was that Thursday night game where the NRL had to come out the next day and admit that they got the Pat Carrigan sin bin wrong, which absolutely flipped the result.
Yeah, and then also like the fact that we did the show at about 2:30 on Thursday. So if you missed that, you're absolutely cheering because we'll put that one
That's
down
true.
as a practice run. Speaking of the team that did play last Thursday, the Melbourne Storm are playing the Dolphins. The Dolphins are hosting this. They are $2.75. 6-4. Imagine that. Their over/under wins for the season was 4.5. You're already cashed and it's May. How good. The Storm are $1.48. The line is 6.5. The over/under 42.5 or 43.5. The Dolphins are fun to watch. Their last 6 has gone over. I'm just going to say it right here. I'm taking the overs because I think the Storm will win, but I think it'll go over.
Yeah, and look, I don't mind the over in this one either. I love the Dolphins at Suncorp. I think they've, outside of that loss to the Rabbitohs, they've been decent up there. Now, what we also have to there's been pretty much every week you can come up with a reason why the Dolphins might get that little bit of extra emotional adrenaline boost for whatever reason. Last week it's Wayne Bennett in his 900th, or maybe that was the week before. I can't remember, but early on in the season, it was the first game at Redcliffe. It was the first game as a club. Jesse Bromwich's 300th. All this and all that. Well, guess where the Dolphins basically pinched half their forward pack?
Melbourne.
Exactly. So we've got the Bromwich brothers and Kafusi going up against their old club at home. And, Jesse Bromwich as captain, he's expected to return last week from his hamstring injury as well. So there's all that to consider. And I think the Wedge, the Storm, they've got most of their guns in, but so did the Roosters in round 1 when they got absolutely hammered by the Dolphins. The Dolphins, they've been doing it all season against teams that are favoured to beat them. And, maybe I'm not following my own process here, but I'm absolutely expecting an emotional boost from this Dolphins side. And I think that they can keep this game, even if they lose, they can keep it to within one score. So Top Sport are offering $1.95 for the Dolphins with the 6.5 point start. And that's where I'm going.
Yeah, didn't mind that at all. Also, hate the scheduling. This is on at 7:35 at Suncorp. Over at the Gabba, 7:30 is Brisbane Lions and the Gold Coast. Like, seriously, what are these two competitions doing? I know they hate each other, but seriously, work out the scheduling and you can pack out both stadiums. Absolute moronic. But anyway, move ahead. And this is my best bet of the weekend coming up in this game. Canterbury Bulldogs are $2.05, hosting the Gold Coast Titans at $1.80. The line is 1.5, over under 46.5. The thing I noticed here is the away team has covered 7 of the last 8 matches between the two. Canterbury have lost their last 4 in Sydney, and they also have failed to lead at halftime in their last 6. AKA, I'm tipping the Gold Coast. They are absolute certainties. Take that, take the line, they'll win.
I don't mind that. Look, they will get Josh Adokar back this week, but how healthy is his ankle? He was named last week, of course, but then he was laid out. Interesting to see rookie Kyle Oluwapu move into the starting team. So once again, we've got a new halves combination. The Bulldogs just can't find any consistency in that department this season. And Kyle Oluwapu, he's a superstar in the making. He's a sort of an oversized half. He has played a lot of footy growing up as a lock. But that tells me he's more of that ball running sort of physical style half. And Matt Burton just hasn't excelled as that organising half either. So once again, you're bringing a rookie into partner, a guy that is more sort of that running, kicking half. and there's just no balance. There's no balance in this Bulldogs team. They're about 3 forwards short of a first grade level pack, the Bulldogs. As for the Titans, they've been inconsistent at best. But yeah, I just have to lean the way of the Titans in this one. Spoiler alert, I've tipped all the favourites in my tipping comps this weekend. The Titans are the favourites here. I think that they can win by 2 or more points against just a really dour Bulldogs team that might pick up a couple of wins over the Origin period where teams are, obviously less than 100%. But yeah, I think the Titans have shown enough this season that while their best isn't brought every week, they'll be good enough to win this game.
Yeah, agree there. As I said, best bet. My first declaration of the season, absolute certainties. Sunday, 4:05. This is an old school traditional clash here. Canberra, $1.57. Manly, $2.55. The line is 4.5 and 5.5 wherever you look. The over-under is 44.5. I'm just going to say it. I'm pretty keen with Canberra. They're on a winning streak. They don't. They've won the last 5 between them. I don't mind them at all. I actually think having a look at their run-in, they're a chance, really getting a chance at the top 4. Their run-in looks kind of weak over Origin. They don't have any superstars. Could they make the top 4? $7.
You're honestly a mind reader. Where did you get the 7, by the way?
$7. Where did I find it? I saw it somewhere yesterday. I was just having a look ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because this has been the hot topic of conversation this week with my mates. The fantasy league that I'm in with them. Basically, my best mates, and we all went to uni in Canberra. So there's a few Canberra Raiders fans in the clan, and one of them put together like a full spreadsheet and everything, mounting the Raiders top 4 case. And look, he makes some very good points. We may as well get into it now because I was going to bring it up as my best bet for the weekend. Literally, obviously 5 wins on the trot now. So basically, to get to top 4, they're probably going to need 15 wins. And I think what are they at now? 6 or 7?
Yes, they're going to get 9 more.
They don't, for this entire run home for the rest of the season, they don't have any 5-day turnarounds. So we'll start there. Their gap is 8, 6, 6, 7, 6, 6, 8, 8, 7, 7, 6, 8, with a couple of buys mixed in there as well. They've got the Roosters coming off an Origin weekend. They've got the Rabbitohs in an Origin week that aren't going to feature their players. We've just had the announcement today that Josh Papali'i has retired from rep footy.
Yep.
So they're going to have him right throughout the Origin period as well. And tell me, which of these next 10 games before they play the Storm at the back end of the season will they not be favourites to win? Manly this weekend.
Yep.
The Rabbitohs without their Origin players.
Yeah.
The Tigers.
Yep.
The Warriors.
Yep.
The Roosters after an Origin game. The Titans. The Dragons. The Warriors with the Raiders off the bye. The Knights. The Tigers. They could honestly win 8 or 9 out of those games.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's wild.
That really sets them up for the top 4 straight away.
It does. So I was looking, Bet365 had them at $4.50 to make top 4. I did find them at $5.50 on a betting agency that CodeBet aren't partnered with, so I won't name it.
Look around, find the best value.
But
that's
if you sorry?
Look around, find the best value. We're not against that, but with our betting partners, Bet365 is where you go for the best prices.
Normally, yes. Yeah. So I was surprised to see that they've only got them at $4.50. But I mean, if you can still see them at $7, I get all over that. I literally put on a bet today, and then I multied it into Port Adelaide making the top 8, plus an odds boost.
You're
and
hoping
I got
Port
8 to 1
tomorrow.
odds. Sorry?
You need Port Adelaide to win that game tomorrow, because if they don't, this could be the start of a downhill slope for them.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, their odds were the same as the Western Bulldogs, and Port Adelaide have percentage and an extra win on the Bulldogs.
if you've listened to the CodeBet AFL show, you'll hear my rhetoric about how I think the Western Bulldogs are absolutely no good. I think Adelaide will beat them, but check out the CodeBet AFL show, which should be probably up right about now as I'm looking at Gerald, just giving him more work to do, but we'll be talking about that game in depth because it's awesome.
So heading into the season, I had Port Adelaide in an extended multi, which ended up folding when Milwaukee were eliminated from the NBA. So I needed to reinvest in that just to get the odds boosted up a little bit more. But the point of the story is I think the Raiders are absolute specials to go on a massive run and get themselves to 15 wins. They need to win 9 more games. And whatever else happens, there's a bunch of other good teams in the comp. Whatever else happens, it doesn't matter. The Raiders get to 15 wins, they'll make the top 4, which is just crazy to think. As for this weekend, getting back on track, Hudson Young, he's obviously on a try-scoring reign, which you spoke about. They're back home at GIO Stadium this weekend as well. Their forwards are just absolutely eating. Corey Horsburgh might have played himself into an Origin spot. He's been that good at lock for them. And their outside backs are all contributing as well, because otherwise Xavier Savage wouldn't find himself in reserves right now. So credit to Sebastian Chris. He's stepped up at fullback and they're just finding ways. Ever since Jared Croker came back, sometimes just having those experienced players, maybe their best footy's behind them, but rugby league's not all about just sheer athleticism and upside and excitement. You do need to find that balance, and the Raiders have it right now.
I mean, Cooper Cronk did show that when half of his body was broken in a grand final and the Roosters absolutely towed up the Storm. It just shows that players who bring good stability to the team are sometimes more important than individual brilliance. But safe to say, we're both tipping Canberra to get the job done pretty easily here. That $1.57 with Better looks mighty nice. Well, that's all.
Gerbo is back. We do need to point that out. So that's a massive boost for Manly. They've got all 3 Trebojeviches in the starting side.
They're all broken. So,
2 of them are broken, unfortunately. But I like the Raiders minus the 4.5. Just to be clear, bet $365 $1.91.
I like it. Well, that's all the games previewed here on CodeBet Daily, the NRL show. All right, Philip, give us your best player prop if you've got one for this weekend.
A player prop. Okay, well, I did go sort of dig into the details about Stephen Crichton, anytime try scorer, or just to score a try tonight. I'm going that one.
Yep, easy. Hopefully this one's up by then. Hopefully Leo can cut that up and throw the odds on TikTok by the time the game gets underway. No pressure, Leo. My best bet, absolute certainty, is Gold Coast Titans. Get on, throw them in all your multis for the weekends at the minus 1.5 with Top Sport at $1.95. We're done here for the week for NRL Round 12. Phil, we'll be back again next Thursday for NRL Round 13. Will be very interesting, as you said, given all of the Origin selections, and I think it's a bye week, isn't it? So we'll have a few less games to cover, so that should make us rip through a show.
Yeah, exactly. I've booked that training for that program that I need to get on across for you guys, so I can actually build my own stories.
That'll make corporate Jim very happy. He's punching the air right now as he hears that.
Exactly. It was scheduled for the Savo. I said, nah, I've got too much on. Let's make it in an Origin bye week, please. Yeah. So
we'll bring that to you next week. We'll also probably get you on board for an Origin special. We may need to do that because State of Origin, how bloody.
Yeah. How are Brighton going to go against the Toon tomorrow, by the way?
I've tipped the draw because the way Brighton won last week was too good, and Newcastle, the loss to Arsenal and then draw to Leeds, like maybe it's sort of the season's catching up to them a little bit and they've hit the wall. The Champions League's all but secured. A draw here would secure it. So I thought Brighton or draw or just the draw itself was a pretty good play, but I think it'll be a very, very tactical affair. Brighton's best chance is just to hit the ground running and just try and run them into the ground, but sort of not sure how that's going to go for them. But there's been some news about some new signings and such, which we'll keep quiet because it's all rambling and absolute bullcrap till it actually gets done, because apparently Arsenal's going to offload 15 players to sign 2. So who knows what's going to happen. But that's for the EPL show. That's for the CodeBet Daily. But check out all of our shows wherever you get a good podcast: Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, I don't know, something else. Gerald, look at me. I got no idea. Everywhere you can get a podcast, you can find the Code Bet Daily, especially the NRL show, which is on its own platform on Spotify. So go sort that out. Please give us a review and a star rating because those are kind of important so we can get out to a broader audience, because I think right now we're ranked somewhere like in the 19 to 20 zone, somewhere down there, because there's like 5,000 podcasts, but whatever. A couple of white dudes on a podcast. Who knew it would be a success? But thanks for stopping by this week, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Mate, all your picks come in. Happy punting. And as always, gamble responsibly. It's Code Bet Daily. Out.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.